Hello viewers, thank you for joining me. Whenever I start a show mostly on a whim and it turns out to be surprisingly good, I like to just jump right in. So, the second anime I watched for January was The Tale of Outcasts. Here, you're introduced to a young orphan girl named Wisteria, living in England in the 1800s. She was taken in by a priest, but he turned out to be a cruel man who makes her beg on the streets each day to earn her meals. But Wisteria remains, if not exactly cheerful, optimistic. She's definitely a character who focuses on the bright side of things, choosing to see begging as honest work, better than thievery at least. Of course, Wisteria's also got a secret weapon to help keep her spirits up. Her eyes are a little special. For as long as she can remember, she's been able to see demons. Normally, this is something she keeps to herself, and she does her best to stay under their radar. But her life changes when she meets a lion demon named Marbus one day. An immortal being who's grown bored with his own existence, Marbus tracks down the strange little girl to her attic bedroom. Demons exist among ordinary people in this world, but they're usually invisible to the human eye. They can take human form for short stretches if they need to interact with someone, but it's physically draining for them. So Marbus goes about his days pondering depressing philosophical questions like, if there's no one who acknowledges your existence, do you really exist? Initially, his curiosity doesn't last long. Wisteria reacts pretty predictably, begging him not to take her soul, insisting she has every desire to keep living, no matter how pathetic a life hers may be. Marbus wasn't in the market for her soul anyway. Demons take human souls to add on to their own lifespans, and he's already immortal. But then she manages to surprise him as he's going to leave. Well, if he's not here to kill her, perhaps he could tell her a bedtime story instead? And so this unlikely pair starts up a new routine. Wisteria gets to live vicariously through the tales of his past adventures, and Marbus makes a friend. They quickly become the bright spot in each other's lives, something to look forward to at the end of each day. I always try to head off anything I see that feels like it might mistakenly scare people away. I can say from personal experience, so much anime comes out every season these days, it's almost too easy to write a show off over something minor and then never give it a second thought. So, to address an elephant in the room, the demons in this anime are each a mix between an animal and a very conventionally attractive human. I definitely started this one and thought to myself, a show designed for the furries. But though I prepared myself for it, I never caught a hint of anything questionably sexual or romantic throughout this series. If you start this and find yourself worrying it's going to get weird eventually, it really doesn't. The Tale of Outcasts is basically exactly what it presents itself to be from the beginning. A heartwarming story of a girl and her demon, though there was a lot more action than I was initially anticipating too. The priest reveals one night that Wisteria is not the first orphan he's taken in. The begging is only temporary. He makes the bulk of his money selling unfortunate kids into slavery, and he's found a buyer for her. This is finally enough to break Wisteria. Before she was orphaned, she had an older brother who sold himself into servitude to help support their family, but once he was taken away, she never saw or heard from him again. She's always feared something terrible happened to him, and now she faces the same fate. She begs Marbus to sneak her away before the sale can go through, but he refuses. Human-demon relationships in this world are transactional by necessity. Thanks to some ancient law, if he helps her for free, his body will basically turn to stone and crumble away. And as they've already established he doesn't need her soul, she doesn't really have anything else to sell him as an appropriate sacrifice. Luckily, Marbus can't let go of their friendship so easily. When he goes to check up on her, he finds that she was sold to a psychopath with a full torture chamber. He can't stop himself from intervening, and as his body begins to fall apart, Wisteria offers up her eyes to make a formal contract to save him. So, in exchange for the sight that first brought them together, Marbus vows to stay by her side for the rest of her life. He'll show her the world. She may not be able to see it anymore, but she has her freedom and her best friend by her side. For an optimist like Wisteria, that's more than enough. I feel like I described a lot of shows as hidden gems last year, and that's a description I really try not to overuse. Maybe I'm just easily impressed when a series that didn't get a lot of buzz turns out to actually be pretty good, but I was consistently impressed by the tale of Outcasts, too. Just this first episode was already a little more than I'd expected from it, if I'm being honest. I guess I was picturing a more peaceful show, with lower stakes. And it's not exactly super fast-paced, but it never stops moving. And this is absolutely the kind of premise where I would have forgiven an episode or two that veered toward the filler side, a day spent exploring a new town and enjoying each other's company. But they were always stumbling across some new form of trouble. Wisteria actually reunites with her brother really early into the series, only to discover that he's joined up with the Sword Cross Knights, a branch of the church dedicated to hunting down demons. She makes a friend in town, but it turns out this girl's also got a demon contract, and a long-standing conflict with the Knights that's about to reach a breaking point. It finally looks like they're about to get a relaxing day off, only for another demon to show up and announce that her brother's been kidnapped. It was always something, but I loved it. I've talked in the past about finding a better appreciation for slower, slice-of-life type stories over time, but if I'm being honest, it does often still feel like I'm making concessions for those shows when I'm judging them. My heart lies with the fast-paced and the action-packed. The other thing that kind of caught me off guard, and I swear this isn't as contradictory as I feel like it sounds now that I'm saying it, is that the tale of Outcasts brought me back to Fruits Basket several times throughout the course of this story. Yes, I know, exactly the kind of slower, semi-peaceful slice of life I just said this one wasn't. Fruits Basket was really one of my most crucial building blocks for how I approach and view anime today. Whenever someone mentions a selfless character, Toru Honda is my go-to example. But it took me a long time to truly appreciate the strength of her character, how strong someone has to be to keep smiling and stay optimistic and continually put others first, even when your world's fallen apart around you. And I definitely saw some of that in Wisteria right from the beginning. But one of my other favorite things about this anime was that Wisteria just kept growing stronger with each adventure. She was a really great character, and I feel kind of bad to admit it, but I wasn't really expecting her to be. I would not have questioned it if she'd been basically helpless and totally dependent on the people around her after she went blind. And there is definitely an adjustment period, but they also show, pretty early on, that Wisteria's unusual sight wasn't limited to her eyes. She can feel it, and sometimes track down the source whenever there's a demon nearby or they're surrounded by strong magic. The series is set in England in the late 1800s, so it was simultaneously not out of place, yet could not have caught me more off guard when, of all people, Sherlock Holmes suddenly appears halfway through the series to help teach Wisteria how to better hone her strange, superpowered perception, possessing something similar himself. The final point that really made this series as special as it was for me had to do with the demon packs. I was moved by Marbus and Wisteria's bond from the beginning, but as the series goes on, you meet a handful of other characters who've signed contracts as well, and what really started to strike me was how, even though they're all very different characters, and were pushed to make these pacts under very different circumstances and motivations, Each team is just so compatible. They all fit together so perfectly. Be it two lonely souls, a grieving but proud little princess and her guard dog, or a pair of soldiers who've lost the ability to care about anything but the thrill of a battle. Every single one of the character stories moved me, even the villains, and if you've listened to any of my other reviews, you'll know there's nothing I value more than a good character story. Is The Tale of Outcasts the most amazing anime I've ever seen? No, I wouldn't go that far. But do I have any serious complaints that feel worth bringing up for a review? Also, no. This series was one surprise after another, and each one made me love it a little more. It's got action, it's got complicated moral questions, it's got great characters and moving character stories and friendships. It's jumped way up there on the list of shows I feel deserved more attention, and I'll be doing my part to promote it from here on out. So go check out The Tale of Outcasts if you haven't, and thank you for watching.